Low-level invasions in Elden Ring are clearly a point of contention. In my last video, I showcased footage of my first experiences in seamless co-op through low-level invasions, and while it wasn't my intention, I upset a lot of people who objected to the fact that I invaded at all with such an overpowered character. So I'd like to take this opportunity to clarify a lot of my thoughts about low-level PvP, and retread some ground surrounding builds, twinks, and invasions. I want to start by saying everyone is entitled to their own opinions about what is and isn't acceptable in a game. Player choice is one of the most important aspects of games, and especially RPGs, so please do not take anything I say here as license to put someone on blast. Except me. You can put me on blast as much as you want, and no one will care because I am a decrepit old man who has aged far beyond my years, well past the point of feeling. The build in question is what you see on screen. Level 10 with every point invested into Vigor, as well as a number of stat boosting items. In isolation, that's not so much a build as it is a character with a deceptively high level and suboptimal distribution. With all the stat boosting items, excluding Godrick's Great Rune, the character has a virtual level of around 40. Now, if this build were actually level 40, it'd be terrible. But at level 10, it's pretty good. Certainly far better than it'd be without the items. However, in the previous video, I addressed this build as not especially powerful. Why would I say something so untrue? Obviously, this build absolutely thrashes hosts and their weakling cohorts, and no self-respecting invader would dare to use a build so dishonest, right? Well, when I said it wasn't particularly powerful, I didn't mean it isn't strong compared to the average new player. I meant it isn't especially strong when compared to other low-level builds. If you're unfamiliar, invading at low level is a special sort of mixed bag. You might get a bunch of noobs who have starting gear and no idea how to play the game. You might get a level 30 twink with their downscaled friends looking to gank you into oblivion. And then there's everything in between. In that scope, in that range of possibilities, my level 10 with the Great Katana and Flaming Strike is not especially powerful. They have standard twink gear in the Sore Seal, all their talisman pouches, and max flasks, but they don't take advantage of anything especially deadly. No Scarlet Rot, no infinite Starlight Shards, no AoE insta-kill Ashes of War. It's just a very simple build that is upgraded abnormally for its level. Against some of the twink builds you'll find, it can't really compete. But against starting classes, it's next level. Because when you're fighting starting class characters of any skill, you have a key advantage. They don't have a build. And that's really what separates the majority of low-level invasions from mid- or high-level invasions. Your opponent is far less likely to have a build at all, meaning in a one-on-one scenario, you're streets ahead. And the game tries to account for this with other general tilts in the host's favor. Beyond the likelihood of them being higher level or having access to their full flasks, both things that have been adjusted in seamless co-op, they get two major advantages. They choose when they can be invaded, and they get at least one cooperator. Those two aspects alone should be enough to set aside all other concerns about fairness in invasions. Elden Ring has made invasions entirely opt-in and given the host the benefit of outnumbering their opponent, which, as much as I don't care for the resulting decrease in activity, is a pretty generous and at least somewhat reasonable approach to the system. If you want the benefits of cooperators, you risk an invader. If that invader is stronger than both you and your cooperators, I have a hard time believing the game somehow owes you a different result. Because Elden Ring, probably more than any other Souls game, lets you get really strong really early. It lets you summon friends of any level with a password and applies a very uneven downscale to them, allowing them to keep all of their endgame gear and abilities. It lets you decide when and if you're going to get invaded at all. It even lets skill be a serious deciding factor beyond build crafting and other prep. If you don't take advantage of those things and get killed by a twinked out invader in Limgrave, I'd take that as a sign that you should either step up your PvP game or avoid it until you get a build going. Remember that the invader has no control over who they invade. They can't determine whether or not you're ready for them before invading. You signaled you were ready when you opened yourself to invasion. You might have 2 overpowered friends of your own and are looking to tear them apart, so they have to be ready for anything, and if they know what they're doing, that means taking every advantage they can get. And even if you don't have higher level friends to summon, you can be competitively strong with relatively little effort. This is a build I've showcased in a number of videos that uses exclusively Limgrave gear and upgrades. Level 20, dual straight swords, Sacred Blade, Crimson Burst Crystal Tear, Stormhawk Axe on Switch. And that's just a few of the very strong options available in the early game. Even +4 flasks give you over half the healing of a +12, and you can get them in less than 20 minutes. And it's not as strong as a twink with maxed out flasks, no question. But 2 of these builds? Or even 3? Or even just 1 decent cooperator who knows the basics of combat? That's a formidable team, capable of taking on the vast majority of low-level invaders. But hey, I don't want to tell you how to play your game. I don't want to tell you that you need to approve of certain PvP methods, or like invasions, or whatever else. I just want to encourage you to respect that Elden Ring is a multiplayer game. It has a strong single-player through-line, with the multiplayer enhancing that core experience. When you play with those multiplayer elements, you need to be prepared for all of them. If you only plan for PvE encounters with giant bosses whose attacks are well telegraphed, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to PvP. The game does not draw a division between the two in the same way most modern games do, so you need to account for both encounters. That is to say, if you want to engage in multiplayer, prepare for all multiplayer. And if your only real objection is that twinking is just too strong, that's something worth discussing. I'm in the camp that twinking doesn't really exist in Elden Ring as you'd traditionally think of it. Sure, you can mule down gear like talismans, ashes, and armaments, but there are hard-set limitations on them. You can't use fully upgraded weapons as a low-level invader because the system matches you based on both character level and upgrade level. You can't be dropped max upgraded flasks as a low-level invader because the upgrade materials are not transferable. You need to get them for yourself by playing through the game. And while you can get all the talismans dropped to you to save you considerable time and effort, you still need to play through a solid portion of the game to get the talisman slots to use them. The game dictates that you must earn the majority of these powers regardless of level. But I hear you. You could still be carried through the game by downscaled friends. You could use upgraded spirit ashes to deal with the strongest bosses. Elden Ring is nothing if not extremely accommodating to players of all styles. You could even just cheat in your entire build. But no matter how you get there, the fact remains that when you invade with max flasks, stat-boosting items, and devastating ashes, you are operating within the scope of the invasion system. And that's not fair. But you know what? That's the point. Invasions aren't supposed to be fair. I want you to think about that. Really internalize the idea I'm presenting. Invasions are not fair. They are not supposed to be balanced in the traditional sense. They are a balancing act in an unbalanced game. Invasions exist in Elden Ring to counter cooperation. That, in a way, is a form of balancing. But it, in no way, promotes or encourages fairness. Because Elden Ring is an RPG where you are free to build your character however you like. You can be as strong or as feeble as you see fit within the confines of the game, meaning when you get a cooperator, they might be too strong. They might be too weak. You don't control that. Just as you don't control the invader. They might be too much for you to handle. They might be so bad it's laughable. It's out of your hands, and that's something you should respect. because the invasion system encourages personalization. It shirks the idea that everything need be perfectly balanced or on a level playing field and says, fuck it, we fight as we are. That's what makes it such a great mechanic. And it's very different at different levels. At low levels, a well-prepared invader is far more likely to win out against a fresh squad. As is true of Souls PvP at every level, any build beats no build. At mid-levels, the balance sits a little more back and forth. The leanness of the typical invader build around level 60 against a standard progression build is a notable advantage, but not by enough to outweigh being outnumbered. And at high levels, the host team has so much in their favor that invaders need to distinguish themselves through either exceptional skill or extreme preparedness. And even then, if the host team is even marginally close in skill level or preparedness, the invader has no real chance of victory. It's a progression that mirrors the standard gameplay experience. You start off as nothing, lowly and meek. Any strong enemy can just roll over you without a second thought. But as you grow in power and experience, you get better at fighting back. You can push through those powerful foes and eventually, no one can stop you. For the same reason that getting invaded at low level is so frustrating, so too is invading at high level. Being on the bottom of a power dynamic is never a fun feeling. Losing feels bad. So I understand the impulse to accuse low-level invaders of being bullies, trying to deride them as sadistic monsters preying on helpless innocents. But it's part of the intended experience. There's margins of error, and it's not always well calibrated, but it is largely intentional. The message that alerts you of an invader used to inspire fear. Where else than at low level are you going to really fear an invasion in Elden Ring? You can say Scarlet Rot shouldn't be available in early game invasions, but the developers made that call and have had years to reverse it. They prioritized player choice and build freedom over protecting someone from a few arbitrary imbalances in what is ultimately a low-consequence, optional encounter. Just as you can go to Caelid within minutes of starting a character, the Rot can come to you if you make yourself available. And however true those negative aspects are of invaders, they're even more true in the reverse. I know the idea of the invader is one of pure violation. They're red, therefore they're bad. You can do whatever you want to them because you can do whatever you want. But gankers are far more of an issue than twinks will ever be in Elden Ring. You can progress past twinks. You never get past gankers. And sure, it's all about that level of personalization. If you hate invaders and want to gank them to hell, go for it. Just as, if you're an invader and want to invade low levels to fight players without builds, go ahead. I've been on both sides and can confirm both can be great fun. Neither is more right or wrong than the other because it's all just part of the game. The only important metric is whether or not you're having fun. If you feel like you're getting bullied and PvP is bullshit, that's fine. Don't play competitive multiplayer. If you want a middle ground where you're allowed to do whatever you want and can ignore any part of the game you don't like, that's fine too. Cheat. Play seamless co-op and disable invasions. But if you participate in the game as intended, if you operate within the scope of what is offered, you have to accept it for what it is. You can complain, God knows I do, you can even hate it. But think about how you want to spend your time. If the game isn't fun a certain way, try another. If something about it is ruining your time, do whatever you can to change it. Elden Ring gives players a lot of tools to customize their experience, and you'd be a fool to ignore them. And if you're someone who just thinks invasions should be removed entirely, you should consider what you're asking. Remember when RuneScape took away the wilderness and everyone quit, and then they added a bunch of microtransactions and now everyone is playing old school at a 3-to-1 ratio because it was better the way it was? The dilemma of invasions is the same as it was for the wilderness. The developer shouldn't remove options from the game. Instead, they need to give players a choice. If you don't want to PvP, don't go into the wilderness. Really, all of this is just me trying to get across the idea that you need to play a game in the way that appeals to you. Elden Ring is sorely lacking in engagement mechanics, so you need to make the most of it. Invaders are evil spirits who are trying to kill you, absolutely, but they're also just players trying to enjoy the game. If that comes at your expense, well, welcome to PvP. Learning to lose is probably more important than learning to win, and that's something these games are great at demonstrating. You're going to get killed, and it's not always going to be fair. The tough but fair mantra is really just a nicer way of saying get good. If you lose, there was probably more you could have done about it. It won't always be in that moment, sometimes it's too little too late, but there's virtually always something more you could have done. Invading at low levels is also a lot of fun and a great way to learn invasions. Elden Ring makes invading an uphill battle in virtually every capacity, so giving yourself as much of an edge as you can is helpful for learning the ropes. It's also just a lot more relaxing, and it can be really interesting to min-max. If I learned anything from Rumble in the Bronx, it's that making a powerhouse who fights regular guys is incredibly entertaining. The only ones who feel bad for the goons Jackie Chan is beating on are the goons getting beat on. Of course they're not going to like it. They're goons. Or perhaps more fittingly, think about Mad Dog from The Raid. Those cops knew the risk when they went into that building to take on the boss. They knew he had a guy who worked hard to be 5 feet tall and virtually unstoppable. He'll play to their level when it suits him and let himself be outnumbered just to make it fair. Sure, he's a bad guy, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't be in the movie. Most of those cops might not stand a chance, but painting them as helpless victims is a gross mischaracterization. So if you hate low-level invasions, try them out for yourself. See what you feel is appropriate for the myriad of situations you find yourself in. You may very well come to a different conclusion, and that's okay. That's what makes the game interesting. Everyone has their own way to play. If you still don't care for them, invade at higher levels. Or maybe invading just isn't for you. The game has a robust single-player and a decent cooperative experience where being invaded has its own charms. If you hate being invaded at low level, consider doing a little more prep before opening yourself to invasions. Know that the game can have a pretty wide power disparity, and that you don't want to get caught on the wrong end of a flaming strike with 500 HP. That's all for this rant. Hopefully you got something useful out of it. Let me know your thoughts on the video, low-level PvP, and invasions in general down below. If you liked the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe if you're interested in more content like this. And for what it's worth, while I don't think it matters, I don't mule down my gear, nor do I cheat in items. I play through the game on my own merits and try to make an honest build. It's a more engaging way for me to play, and I want to give players an authentic experience, but that also means playing to win by whatever means necessary. After all, I'm an evil spirit. Until next time, thank you for watching.